What's up guys, it's Josh back with another video, and today I wanted to show you guys how to set up Microsoft SQL Server 2019 on your Windows 11 system. So let's get started. Now, as I stated in the intro of the video, I wanted to show you guys how to install Microsoft SQL Server, the 2019 version, on your Windows 11 operating system. And this process will pretty much work on Windows 10 as well. And the reason I wanted to show you guys how to do this, because I always talk about people setting up their own labs at the house. And as you guys know, I work as a database administrator. And I typically don't talk about Microsoft or Windows at all on my channel because it's strictly about the Linux operating system. But occasionally I try to throw things in there that are associated with what I do in my real job, which is database administration work. And you know that most companies use a Windows environment. So if you end up becoming a database administrator as well, you're most likely going to be using Microsoft SQL. And so this is the perfect way for you guys to set up your own lab at your house so you can play around and learn SQL in order to stay familiar with the latest versions of SQL, as well as if you're trying to get into the IT field and you want to get into database administration work. Well, this is a way to set up that lab so you can practice using a full-blown Microsoft SQL Server on your laptop or desktop, whatever computer you have at the house, to run as your lab. So let's hop over to my virtual machine, my Windows 11 virtual machine, so I can show you guys how to get started with installing Microsoft SQL Server. So let's get started. Okay, cool. So I have Windows 11. This is Windows 11. It's not activated. I downloaded this from Microsoft's website, installed it in a virtual machine. So it's no need to activate it. I'm not going to use it past this point of showing you guys how to set it up. So that's why it says down here in the right hand side and partially covered by my face, activate Windows. So Windows is not activated, just so you guys know. Now let's go through and install Microsoft SQL Server. So let's open up the website and or the browser and just type SQL Server. And then what we want to install is 2019. So I'm gonna put 2019 up there, and then we could just click on the Microsoft site for Microsoft for SQL Server 2019. And let's hit the download button. And I wanted to show you guys how to actually download it, or which one to download, because there's multiple versions once you get to the site. But there is the SQL Server on Azure. So this is the cloud version. You can use this in the cloud. It's basically run SQL Server on Azure SQL with built-in security and manageability. That obviously costs money. You'll be charged based on the data usage. So if you're just setting up a server just for training or just to get familiar with working with SQL Server, then you definitely don't want to use this unless you want to, pay a little bit for a cloud service. As long as you don't add anything that's heavy on resources as well as data connections to it, I would definitely stay away from this. And then there's another version called SQL Server at the Edge. This is for IoT devices. So it says extend SQL to IoT devices for real-time analysis with Azure SQL Edge. So that's another version of it. And then the last one is the SQL Server on-prem. So this is just basically SQL Server installed on a server that you have at the house, but obviously this is you need to have a license and all that stuff. Now there are two other options, and this is where we're going to get the version that we want to install. The first one is the developers version, which is the one I'm going to recommend in this video. As you can see, it says SQL Server 2019 Developer is a full-featured free edition license for use as a development and test database in a non-production environment. So you can only use this in a non-production environment. You don't want to use this in a production environment. And one thing I recommend, let's say you're building some type of application and you need a SQL backend, or you want a Microsoft SQL backend, then I would build the databases and tables and all that stuff in a development version. And then once you get to the point where you want to, let's say, sell that application, then you can move that database, you can migrate this database up to the cloud if you want to install it up there, or if you want to just pay for a license. Let's say you own a business and you already have a license and you want to pay for it, or you have a server, a physical server that you want to install it on, then you can migrate it there as well. So you can migrate in between each one of them, once you develop out your database or whatever. But like I said, for training purposes or development, then definitely, download the developers option, which is what we want to download. So I'm gonna start the download now for that. But there is another version, and that's Express, and it's a scaled down version of SQL Server, and it's free. You can actually use this for development and production, for like web and small server applications. So that is a way to run SQL Server, but it doesn't have all the full features of the full featured version of SQL Server. So I wouldn't recommend this unless it's something like super small, but you do have that option as well. So now that we downloaded the developers version, let's go through and install it right fast. And we just open up our browser, file browser, and go to documents, or actually downloads, I'm sorry, and go down and run that developers installer. And basically that's gonna download really all the files you need based on what you select in here, and then install it on the system. So what we want to do is do the basic, and it says select basic installation type to install the SQL Server database engine feature with default configurations, that's the easiest way to install, and that's the one I want to recommend in this video. And then you also have two other options. There's a custom that'll take you through an installation wizard and allow you to choose certain ways to install SQL Server, and then also download the media if you want to. But let's go down and click the basics. Let's accept the terms of service, and then this is just letting you know where it will install, and it will install under program files and then Microsoft SQL Server. And this is the minimum space requirements. That's 8 gigs right there. So download size about a gig. So let's hit install, and it'll go through and install it for us. And it shouldn't take too long. It's not that big of an install to actually get this thing installed. I mean, sometimes it could take a while depending on your hardware, but I'm running it on a server as it is, and I'm sending some of the server hardware to this actual system, so we shouldn't run into any issues with this installing pretty quick. I have this running on like a Dell server, but it's obviously virtualized. So it doesn't have the full features of the hardware. I'm only sending a certain amount to it, but there is a way in Proxmox to send the hardware to the actual virtual machine of the system, and that kind of makes it run a little better in my opinion. So like I said, it shouldn't take too long. It's almost done pretty much. It's gonna download the install package and then install it on the system. So since this might take a little while, I'll come back when it actually finishes. Alright, cool. So the installation is complete of the developers edition of SQL Server 2019. And one of the things I like to do, let me just walk through what all this is displaying. It's basically displaying the instance name, which it defaulted to MySQL Server, so MS SQL Server. The systems administrator, or the SQL administrator, I'm sorry, is my local user account. Same thing will happen for you. And then features, install, SQL engine, and then the version, so 15.0.2000.5 or TM. And then here is just some information you may need a connection string. That's how you connect to it. SQL Server install log folder, so that's where the logs are stored. The installation media folder, so that's where that's stored. The installation resources folder, so that's where the resources are stored. Now down here at the bottom there is a connect, so you can connect to it now, and it'll basically run a basic command, select the version. That's how you run select version, and it'll display the version of MySQL that's installed. We already saw it in the information that was provided after the install, but as you can see, it just displays the version, so 15.0.2000.5, and then also lets you know it's a developer edition, 64-bit on Windows 10 Pro, which This is actually Windows 11, which, you know, the base of it is kind of like Windows 10. And then you connect it to the actual server. So I'm gonna just go down and hit the X just to close that, because we don't need it. But the next thing you want to do is actually install SSMS. So you can click right here and that'll open that up in a new tab. And then let's go back to this installer page and let's go down and close it, because we don't need it anymore. But you want to document this information after installing if you can't remember where these locations are, as well as the connection string. So let's go down and close it. Hit yes and that'll close it. And like I said, you have to install SSMS, which is SQL Server Management Studio. This is the application that allows you to interact with your SQL Server. So let's go down and download that right fast. But all you gotta do is click on the latest version. This is the latest version, 18.11. So I'm gonna download it now. It takes a little while to download it, so I wanted to show you guys something else as well right fast. So if we right click on our start menu, we can go to computer management, and then I just wanted to show you guys where the services are, or where to look for the services. But if you go under computer management, go to services, and let's put it on standard so you guys can kind of see exactly, because this thing is stretched out and it looks a little weird. But I just wanted to show you guys. But if you go down to SQL or SQL, you'll see it. This is the server that's actually running. So right here is the MySQL instance, or the server running. One thing, this is the agent. Let's go down and start that as well. Let's go down and start that. You can start it as well if you want to. And then I like to go into properties, and then under the general tab, just click on automatic. That way it'll start up whenever the system reboots. It'll start up as soon as the system comes up. So let's hit apply. Okay, and we can close that now. But these are the services, so you may need to troubleshoot that if you're having issues with the SQL Server you're not able to connect to it or anything. Sometimes you could check down in here to see if the service is running, just like any other application. I just wanted to show you guys that as well. But there are other services for other features that you can connect to, like CEIP, VSS Writer, Discover. Well, no, that's something else. But the server browser, so that's disabled right now. We don't need that at the moment. All right, so it looks like SSMS has downloaded. So let's go back to our downloads folder and install SSMS. All we gotta do is double click on the exe, just like any other application you install in Windows. It's not that difficult. And then all you gotta do is hit install, and it'll go through and install SSMS. And like I said, you can interact with your SQL Server. You can even interact with other SQL servers that you have out there. They could be in the cloud. You can interact with those as well via SSMS. All you gotta do is connect to them. As long as it has the user account, or you have the user account password in order to connect to it, you can use this to actually connect to the SQL Server. Now I'll be back when this actually finishes. All right, cool. So SSMS is installed, and before we move forward, we have to restart the system. So let's go down and click the restart button, and that's what you want to do once you install SQL as well. But I just want to install SSMS before we reboot. That way everything is installed properly. The way Windows work, if it doesn't get a reboot, then the application won't work properly. So let's restart the system, and I'll be back when it's back up. All right, cool. So we are rebooted. Let's go down and log into the system and go down and connect to our SQL Server. So all we have to do is hit the start button and then find Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. And I'm 100% sure that the SQL Server is running. Well, not 100% sure. I say about 98% sure. Only way you'll know is if you go look into those services, which we can check them right fast. So let's just right click on our start menu, go to computer management, and then let's wait for that to pop up as well. And then we can check and see if our service is running down here. Let's open it up standard, go down to SQL. And as you can see, our SQL Server is running, as well as the server agent. So let's go down and close that. And the first thing that'll pop up when you open up SSMS is a connection window. It wants you to connect to whatever SQL server that you want to connect to. And like I stated, you can connect to servers remotely. So you can hit browse and you can find a database engine, a network server, or a database engine somewhere else. So let's hit cancel there, but we're going to connect to the local SQL Server's database with our Windows authentication. And you can go in here and look at it, but they do have SQL Server authentication, Azure Active Directory, all those options under there. But what we're going to use is the Windows authentication, which is our user account on our system. So let's go down and press connect. Now connect us to our local database or database management system, SQL Server that's installed on this laptop or virtual machine. Now this is pretty much it. You're connected to the SQL Server, and as you can see, you have your databases. You have a couple different folders underneath it. So you have your databases. So if you have multiple databases on this server, they'll show up under there. You have your security, server objects, replication, because you can set up replication, polybase, always on, high availability, management, integration services catalog. This is that SQL Server agent right there. And you can run jobs and all kind of stuff, alerts, all that stuff under there. X events profile. Oh yeah, I know what that is. But so you have all those options there. Now let's click under databases, expand that out. But you have your systems databases and database snapshots. So this is where you can create a new database. Right under here. You don't want to mess around with your systems databases because those are just for the system. And then just to show you guys a little more before I create a database, but if we right click on the actual server itself, you can go into properties, and it has a whole slew of properties for the SQL Server. This is where you can go in and modify memory usage, processors, security, connections, database settings, advanced permissions. And I don't want to go through this in depth because it'll take me a very long time to go through everything. You need to take a course to understand all of this, but that's the details of the actual SQL Server, and like what operating system is installed on, platform, all that good stuff right there. So let's close that. But like I said, if you right click on here, you can create a new database, and I'm gonna expand it again, but let's right click here and I'm gonna show you guys how to make a test database. You just go up here, name your database, and I'm gonna just name this one test underscore DB, and let's go down and press OK on that. That'll create our database. And now you can go in, if you expand that, you can go in and create let's see, this is a database diagram, which nah, we're not gonna create that, but this is where you can go in and create your tables right here under here. They do have system tables, file tables, but you can create all your tables under here. So all you have to do is hit new table, and that'll allow you to create your tables. Now let's collapse that, but you also have views. That's where your views will show up. External resources, synonyms, programmability, service broker, storage, and security. So you can modify the security specifically for that database. Now let's collapse that, because let's say you want to create this server as a test environment for you to actually learn in. Well, there are a couple databases out here, or there's actually a database out here that you guys can actually install on this SQL Server, so you can play around with it, run queries, and actually get more knowledge out of working with Microsoft SQL. So let me show you guys where to get that from. So let's open up our browser and let's just type in AdventureWorks, because that's the actual database, but AdventureWorks database. So let's click that, and then let's try to find the GitHub. I should have typed GitHub in there, that way it would have brought up the GitHub page, because that's where you want to get it from. That's simply where I get it from. So here we go, AdventureWorks. This is where you want to download your test database from, and I'll have a link down in the description for each one of the pages that I went to within this video. So let's scroll down and let's see, let's click on AdventureWorks right here. Nah, that's not the right thing. And let's just go back to, let's see, SQL Server sample. And then let's scroll down, and what we're looking for is releases. This is where you can go get the actual backup files. Let's go down, and like I had said, I have the link directly to this page right here. So this is basically the release page where you can get the database from. So let's scroll down to the bottom under assets. And what we're looking for, since we have 2019, there is a 2019 version. So AdventureWorks 2019.bak. That's exactly what we want. Now they do have a data warehouse, but that requires a little bit more resources. There's a light version as well, but the regular version is pretty good, so you shouldn't have any issues running it on your system. But I'm basically going to download that version. It's about 200 megabytes in size, so it doesn't take up much space. Well, it'll be expanded on a database by creating all the tables and all that stuff. I mean, it's basically a backup of this actual database that you can import, and I'll show you guys how to import it as well. Okay, cool. So it's downloaded. Let's open up our file explorer again, and let's go to our downloads folder. And I'm gonna open up another file explorer because we need to go to a location on the server. Don't you remember how I was showing you guys that there are files and directories under the program files for Microsoft SQL Server that you need to at least familiarize yourself with? Well, if you go under program files, Microsoft SQL Server, and then this MS SQL 15 MySQL Server, that's the actual server right there. Go up in here. Well, you have multiple folders in here. You got your backup folder, you got your data folder, which is where the actual databases are stored. See, and then we can back out of that, but you also have your logs, that install directory and jobs directory. And what we want to do is go into our backup directory, and you might have to change permissions, but it doesn't affect anything. But let's go into our downloads and grab that backup. But this is essentially a backup file, so let's copy it, and you can either copy it or cut it, it doesn't matter, but paste it into this directory. Boom, so we're good to go. So let's go down and close this. We don't need these file explorers no more. Our backup is there. Now let's go up to databases, and then right click on database, and let's hit restore database. And then it'll bring up like a little wizard. One thing you want to do is, it's not going to show any databases because we don't have any backups yet, and it doesn't know that backup is there. So essentially you got to hit device and then hit the three dots right here, and that'll allow you to browse. So let's just hit add, and then it automatically defaults to that backup directory that we went to. That's why I knew to put it there, because that's the default location for all your backup files. So BAK file. So let's press OK. So we have that done. Let's press OK. I basically highlighted and pressed OK, and what it's going to do is import that backup into our server once we hit OK. So we good to go. So all we have to do is hit OK, and you'll see it pop up here basically saying it's restoring that actual database, and then it'll pop up basically saying it restored the database successfully. So let's press OK, and as you can see, we have a new database there, and that's the AdventureWorks 2019, and this is developed by Microsoft. They put it out there on their current GitHub page, so you can go through and find it. And like I said, I'll put a link down in the description of the video of how to get this database. But as you can see, we have a lot of data to work with. As you can see, a whole bunch of tables under here. Let's see if they have views. Yeah, and they do have a whole bunch of views. Pretty much anything you could think of, that you could do with a database, they include within this test database, so you can understand how to actually create it for your custom databases at whatever job or whatever you're developing. You have examples that can help you out. Now let me just run a simple query right fast just so you guys can see. So let's type use, and then let's specify the adventures database. We can type go, and then let's do a simple select, and let's expand this so we can know what to actually use, and I'll just use one of these human resources tables. But let's hit select and then store from, and let's specify one of these tables in here. Let's try that human resources. Let me expand this a little bit so I can see what the full name is. Let's start with departments. So all we gotta do is type human and it'll automatically pick it up, you know. And then let's see departments, which is that first one. Let's tab that out and let's put a semicolon at the end, press enter, and then you can execute this query and it basically pulls in the, you know, basically everything within that table. So as you can see, it's a whole bunch of department IDs, the names, different groups and stuff like that, or whatever within that table. And you can do that on any one of these tables. Like let's backspace this off and put employees in there, and put the semicolon at the end, press execute. There we go. And so we got all our test data in here as far as users, or it said employees, so employee. So you have all that information there as well, with login information, all that stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and like I said, this will get you started with setting up your own home lab for SQL Server. So if you're interested in getting into databases or working with databases, you know, it's a lucrative career, you know what I'm saying? So you definitely want to get into it. But if you're interested, you know, this is a way to actually practice and get better with working with SQL, writing queries and playing around with the Microsoft platform on your actual laptop, or if you have a dedicated computer that you do labs on, you can install this quickly, get it up and running, the development version, and you can practice your SQL, you know, using one of these test databases. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, make sure you leave comments down in the comments below, and of course, keep it techie.